What's your favorite scary movie? I'm sorry, but you didn't make the final cut.
Hello YouTubers, my name is Frederick Lopez. You're in a new episode of The Final Cut, and today I'm going to be going over my review and thoughts of Scream 3. So, real quick, what is Scream 3 about and who stars in it? Well, pretty much Neve Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, they all return. And in this installment we have new additions. Patrick Dempsey, Parker Posey, Liev Schreiber returns, and you also have Scott Foley's film debut in this film. We get a little bit of Jay and Silent Bob, and more of Hollywood. Carrie Fisher makes a cameo. It's all around an even more meta film than the previous two installments. And Scream 3 is set a couple of years after Scream 2. Sidney Prescott is in hiding. Nobody knows where she's at. She's kind of really low profile, and she's a telephone operator. And she starts getting these premonitions and dreams, and it's a little bit more horror genre with glimpses of her dead mother, like a ghost. They keep haunting her, and she has this feeling that there's going to be trouble. The film opens up with Liev Schreiber's character, Cotton Weary. He now hosts a major talk show. He's stuck in traffic, and somebody's after his wife, and he must return home. And one new element that is added in this film is that the killer now has a voice changer to sound like other people, which gives him a more intimidating and threatening presence in the film. Cotton Weary gets murdered, and he was about to film Stab 3. Now, as you may know, the previous two installments, Stab was a fake film within the Scream films based upon the Woodsboro murders. And somebody's killing off the cast of Stab 3, not only to stop production, but to also bring Sidney Prescott out of hiding. There's an unknown person, an unknown killer, that is the main orchestrator of all the murders of the Scream trilogy, that wants to settle things once and for all with Sidney Prescott. And it is up to her to come out of hiding and face this person face to face. In addition to that, you also get a subplot with Sidney Prescott's mother, and her being a former model / actress in Hollywood before moving to Woodsboro. So there's a whole back story. There's a whole backstory that we get to explore with her mother, and more answers to reasons why things happened the way they did in the previous two installments. But Scream 3 is overall more comedic, less suspenseful. It's a little bit less of a thriller. And it's not really too much of a horror film, even though it is in the horror genre and does follow the movie rules, especially that of a trilogy. Kevin Williamson does not return. This is the only installment where Kevin Williamson does not write. He was busy with other prior engagements, and his original script was actually really quite different from this. Originally, Stewie was going to come back, Matthew Lillard from the first film, as a villain. And he was going to have high school students be the killers, but the Columbine incidents happened, and they scrapped that, so it's all in Hollywood. And in a way, it's almost a follow-up to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. It's very meta, but also makes fun of Hollywood in general. And that's something unique about the film. Is it done as well as New Nightmare? No, but it's done good in its own right. And it's a very different and refreshing take upon Scream. It's the first time she's out of college, they're out of Woodsboro, but they're all adults, and that actually feels a bit better. It's not the usual high school, college horror film. They're just all adults and there's a killer. And it's the only film out of the Scream trilogy and the Scream series where there is one killer, that also makes it very different. Ultimately, Patrick Dempsey's character Kincaid says it the best. He's just like, when it comes to third installments, trilogies, all bets are off in the final act. That's pretty much what it is. The final act of the Scream trilogy, the original Scream trilogy. You can really tell that it's a culmination of everything this series has been. And it really gives a kind of interesting explanation to why everything has happened in the past couple of films. And Randy, Jamie Kennedy's character, makes an appearance in this film. He got killed in number 2. You find out he has a sister, and he actually recorded a tape during Scream 2 to explain if he doesn't survive and there is another killer, that he's going to follow sequel rules, and not only that, trilogy rules. So here's what he says. Rules for a continued horror film sequel as stated in Scream 3. 1. The killer must be superhuman. Mere stabbing or shooting will not be enough to kill the killer. 2. Anyone can die, including the main character. 3. The past will come back to haunt someone. So yeah, pretty much it's a conclusion. There's a lot of fun at Hollywood, the filmmaking process. Scott Foley's character is great as a director, and Parker Posey gets a lot of great humor with Courtney Cox's character. She's Gail Weathers, and there's just a lot of funny stuff between them. Overall, is it the best out of the Scream series? No. Is it enjoyable? Yes. And is it a scary horror film? Not really, but it is in the horror movie rules, and it's in a horror film series. Overall, if you want to know what the feeling of Scream 3 is like, it's like watching a Scooby-Doo movie, where you get to see Scooby and the gang figure out who the masked killer is. It pretty much has a Scooby-Doo vibe. But Scott Foley gets a lot of fun as a director. In a way, it kind of has commentary on Wes Craven wanting to direct something else than a horror film, like Music of the Heart, for instance, and he does some great direction here. Erin Kruger did the script to this, and she pretty much ignored Kevin Williamson's script, and Wes Craven did some rewrites to make the characters feel more like they were in the previous 2 installments. So there's a lot of great stuff with this writing and then directing here. Everything, again, is a culmination of the Scream trilogy. Neve Campbell comes back. She is superb as Sidney for the time she's given. She had prior engagements to a film and a television series at the time, so she didn't have that much time. They had like about 20 days to shoot, so they got all her stuff in, which is why her character is in a limited time. She doesn't really come into like the 3rd act. But it works. There's a lot of humor. There's a lot of supporting characters. Overall, it feels different. The kills are better. There's a lot of humor. The voice changer has to be the best part. The soundtrack's great. Beginning sequence Wes Craven has with Cotton Weary's Wife, and What If by Creed playing was great. Finger 11 Suffocate. There's just a lot of great songs on the soundtrack. Again, with weaker films, it kind of shows you that they do have really good soundtracks. And then for the ultimate reveal of Scott Foley being the killer. Roman being the main killer and being Sidney Prescott's stepbrother was a big twist. Lorraine Prescott getting abused and having a long-lost kid, and then him going to her and her basically shunning him, and what happened with Billy Loomis's father and the affair he had with Sidney Prescott's mother. Just everything orchestrated by Roman. Roman is a main orchestrator of all the killers and killings in the Scream trilogy, in the series so far at this point. And that was really cool to see, like a main master of puppets, just like the puppeteer in this film, and also be related to Sidney Prescott, a very great trope. Always something with family relatives, and again with trilogies, revealing something you thought was true and is not true, or something you didn't know about being revealed in the 3rd chapter. Was done wonderfully. But yeah, I would give Scream 3 a 3.5 out of 5, a 7.5 out of 10, and a B+. Is it the best horror film? No. Is it the best Scream film? No. But it's a highly enjoyable film and great on its own merits. It's not a bad film on its own, and I find it highly enjoyable. In my personal opinion, Scream 3 is as underrated as Scream 2 is overrated. All the Scream films are great in their own rights, but I feel like Scream 2 is a bit more overrated, where Scream 3 actually has some really good elements, and it's just a little bit underrated. It's not really appreciated as much. It's not the worst 3rd film ever, but is it the best? No. You could tell Kevin Williamson's absence in this, but it's still an enjoyable film to pop in for Halloween. even though it may not be scary. And that's why it gets knocked down a couple of points for the final cut. But it is a worthy conclusion, especially at that time. Dewey and Gail get married. Sydney ends up with Detective Kincaid, Patrick Dempsey's character. I love that ending shot of the door open. I love that ending shot where they're watching a movie, she closes a door and then it opens. No killer there, but it's almost like the saying, like one door closes, another one opens. So for the time, and especially in this series, for the original trilogy, it's a worthy conclusion. I just would have loved to see Kevin Williamson's original treatment get made into a film, and what his ideas were for the big finale. But overall, it was a fun ride, and much like the other series, like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff, you almost have to become less serious and just kind of like end it, kind of like self-destruct in a way. But this did it in a very enjoyable way. And yeah, you get to see Jay and Silent Bob, which Wes Craven's also in Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, so that's pretty cool. I liked Lance Henriksen's cameo. Nev Campbell does a great job. Dewey, basically Courtney Cox, David Arquette, Nev Campbell bring 100% to the films. And at this point, we can expect none of them to really die, even though they kind of do build it up. Nobody really is going to die at this point. And I love the voice changer stuff. And some of the kills were cool, especially when it's just like, do you smell gasoline? And it's like the real gas on, and he blows up the house. Just many different ways of killing people in this one. And you also have the whole who is the killer and who done it type of mystery element still in there, which I do like. So yeah, this Halloween, that's just my brief thoughts. I want to go more into it, but I really can't think of what to say. If you've seen the first two Scream films, go ahead and see Scream 3. And then see Scream 4. Let me know what you think about it. And if, for those who have seen it, what do you think about Scream 3? What's your favorite Scream film of the Scream trilogy? What's your favorite Scream out of the entire series? Personally, I really like Scream 3. It's one of my personal favorites. Even though I can accept that it may not be the best out of the series, it's still a very highly enjoyable film and has a wonderful soundtrack, and again shows Wes Craven's brilliant directing. There's some great moments that are kind of suspenseful. Even though there is a bit more comedy, it still feels like the whodunit mystery, but like Scream if it was Scooby-Doo. There's a lot of intrigue. And then even Carrie Fisher's cameo was great. I loved it where she's just like, you know, you look like her. And then Carrie Fisher's like, oh yeah? Well, you know what? I was up for the job. You know who got it? The one who slept with George Lucas. That was such a funny cameo. And then she tells Courtney Cox, like, oh, you want me to tell you what you look like? And that was just great. And Roman's joke about always wanting to make a romantic comedy and then being the killer, and that whole confrontation was fantastic, I thought. And overall, I give it points because even though it's not as scary, like I said earlier, it does something original and it's something different. And it's very meta. For a series of horror films that has been meta to begin with, this is almost like the pinnacle of that meta sensibility. It's pretty similar to New Nightmare, except instead of out of the movie world, it kind of pokes fun at itself. So it's just the same thing as Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but done in a different way. And again, an overused word is meta, and it's really meta film. And yeah, go ahead and check it out. I don't know if you will be disappointed, but you may not be disappointed. Just go ahead this Halloween, check out the Scream trilogies, check out Scream 3. And then yeah, that's it for the final cut. My score is 3.5 out of 5, 7.5 out of 10, and a B+. And it's enjoyable for what it is. So yeah, that does it for the final cut. Tune in for the next episode in which I will review Scream 4. To tell you it's all because of Sydney. All because of her. Heads are gonna roll tonight. That's it, folks. Check out my other reviews of Scream 1, Scream 2, and yeah, tune in for Scream 4 pretty soon. And enjoy some horror films for Halloween. And everybody out there have a happy Halloween. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and do whatever. Watch the movies.